Welcome to The Story Tinker, a Webtoons and Witcher podcast for superfans with scene-by-scene analysis. Featuring sharp co-hosts for a fuller picture, we dive deep into character psychology, relationships, and theories. We'd love it if you could like, subscribe, comment, and rate us on all podcast platforms and social media. For bonus content, you can support The Story Tinker on Patreon. Let's begin. Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 103 of Midnight Poppyland. And we're here with Laura and Sharon, Seazar. Seazar. Hey. All right, so we started off the episode with something I did not think was going to necessarily show up in Midnight Poppyland, because we were wondering if the ghost was like Tora pulling a prank or if it was actually a ghost. Turns out, I think it's actually a ghost, because she's like, the writing's still there, and she says it says go, but Tora verified that we're the only ones in the house. And we have like a little flashback. She's like, where Tora's like, someone's living in the walls, the F. Quincy's like, see, told you there's no one else in here. He'd move us to a new coop immediately at the first sign of a threat. And Poppy's like, which means it's really a ghost. So I don't know. It's funny. I didn't think there was going to be a ghost. Did you think it would be a real ghost?
No.
What do you guys think it was?
I always think it's really strange when you have a webtoon that is, or like any story that feels very rooted in reality for the most part. I mean, we're very deep in, and it was surprising to me to add like a supernatural element. So I'm curious to see like how far we're gonna go with it. I mean, given like Tora's background, I know people were saying that maybe because of his like ancestry, he has like this ability to see ghosts. I was pretty surprised by it.
Yeah, same. I'm still not totally convinced it is a ghost. I'm still waiting for it to be like, I don't know, Quincy sleepwalking or something. Like I don't know, or I don't know. Yeah, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
So part of me wonders if it's a little bit more ghosts are a little bit more ingrained in like Asian culture, because especially what she says next, she's a little nervous. She's like, "Oh, we could do this," and she runs away and she says, as Granny always used to say, whenever a forest spirit drifted into our house, ghosts are scary, but the heart of man is worse, which is actually an amazing line. I mean, it's very profound, but it just indicates that in Poppy's culture, ghosts are normal. Like ghosts and spirits are normal. The fact that they automatically know what to do, they're like, oh, they have a whole ritual where they serve it, they give it food. So the way that she's growing up in her atmosphere, it's like, yeah, this is just part of life.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good point about like, it's not necessarily confirming that supernatural elements or like ghosts are real in this story, but the belief is real. And I mean, we have plenty of people in our world that not only believe, for example, in witchcraft, but like practice it, whereas other people completely think it's rubbish, and don't believe in it at all. And it's the same with like so many different things where people just like kind of, brush it off. But, as they always do with like fairies, people believing in something already makes it a little bit real.
Right. I grew up in a culture that believed in like demons. It wasn't like a big part of the culture, but there's like certain, because Jewish law becomes a little bit ossified, like fossilized. So there's laws from like
sorry, I missed that. What was that, Mindy?
No, I think it froze. So I think I was talking and I didn't hear you guys talking. Okay, sorry, you were saying.
Part of it. So I'm trying to organize my thoughts. Okay, so Granny used to say, like, whenever a forest spirit would drift into our house. So, like, that sounds kind of like welcoming, like not super foreboding, just like a forest spirit, kind of benevolent, maybe.
Okay, sorry, you were saying the forest spirit.
Yeah. I would guess that the forest spirits are a little bit more like positive and welcoming, but maybe what makes this more scary for Poppy right now is the message that if the spirit left, go. Like, the spirit doesn't want them there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really curious. I feel like it has to have some kind of significance or you wouldn't be spending so much time on it,
Right.
Because it's been a few episodes where it kind of keeps coming back. Like, it didn't need to resurface in this episode. So I feel like maybe the confirmation that she's like, oh, so it really is a ghost. Maybe that was also Lily telling all of her skeptic readers, like, yes, it's a ghost. It could also be.
And
Or
it
it's
could be, oh, go on.
maybe it's a red herring and it's really something, sneaky and mafia-ish and, ominous, and like Louise is trying to make us think it's not.
Could be. I wonder if it's connected to the end of the episode when we're talking about Louise.
Okay. Is
I
it?
don't know.
When we get there, you should circle back to this and explain more.
Okay.
Okay. So she slides the door shut. She kind of runs past it because she's terrified. And, we still see their fancy bougie offering over there. And she's in her room. She's like, "Phew, made it inside." So she's terrified. And she's like, "It's safe in here, right?" And then she's like, "Wait a minute. Was I always this neurotic? Ugh, I think I'm a little stressed out. I'll do some yoga stretches before I take a bath." Which is, it's nice that she's self-aware enough, right? Like I think a big part of growing up is that you can't get rid of all your stress, but you can control your reaction to stress a little bit better. So she knows what to do. She identifies it, and then she knows what to do to calm herself down.
Yeah.
Now we have a funny flashback where we say Quincy's probably still in the shower anyway. And she's like, Quincy's, they're talking about showering, and he's like, "Sure, you want me to go first? You might want to expect a 20-minute delay." And Tora, who's brushing her teeth, is like, "Just jack off in the bathroom for F's sake." And poor Quincy, like, running away, blushing, and hides his face with the towel. He's like, "Oh my gosh, you haven't frick, I hate you."
That is so typical, like, teenager brothers. It's like, "Oh my God, how could you do this to me? You ruined my life."
Poor Quincy. So that's a little humiliating. Tora's just stretched out, and Poppy's like, "It's okay, Quincy. I'm sure almost every man does that. But remember to clean up after use."
Oh
And
my
like, yeah,
God.
Quincy totally confirmed that that's what he was planning on doing with his reaction. So,
I
Yeah,
was
he was
surprised
trying
by
to
the
be-
reaction.
I know. Yeah, he was trying to like dance around it, but Tora immediately called him out.
So it's like, don't bring it up. Like, just take a long shower. Don't imply what you're gonna do in there if you don't want people to comment on it.
It's just funny. Right. And yeah, for someone who's so like, I don't know, like a, what's the word again? Like steamy writer. It's just funny that he's pretty open otherwise. So now he's embarrassed. Maybe it's because it's Poppy, and like now he has a little bit of a crush or attraction to Poppy, and now it's already embarrassing.
He needs to check himself. Probably, this shower might help him with some of that pent up.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Like he's someone who implies that he has a lot of sex, but we've only seen it with like Cordy and the bar person, right? And he doesn't have a steady partner that we know of. So, and he's a young guy, and there's an attractive girl living in the same house with him. Like, I can see it being difficult. Yeah, he needs a partner.
Yeah.
And Tora is like, after Poppy says, "Oh, it's okay," and he grabs her head and turns it, and he's like, "And how would you know?" Smoking, seen it before? Oh, so Tora making embarrassing statements, and she runs away. It's like, "So what did I have? I'm a nerd, not a nun." And it's like, although it was on a computer, no thanks to Danny and Belle, which is like, of course, who showed her lustful cousins.
Yeah. That's so interesting too. Like, who watches porn of people jacking off in the shower? Like, it's such a strange brand of porn.
I have not searched for that, so I do not know what exists out there. Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit. Remember in Let's Play, Sam's friends are like, "You're watching porn now." They're like, "Well, you need an education." So,
actually, I was like not sure if I should bring up a different webtoon, but the entering or like adding supernatural elements late into the game, it really reminded me of Let's Play, where like suddenly I remember being on the podcast and we're like wondering if Vicky's thing is like an actual supernatural power suddenly, or what it is.
Yeah, same idea. So now Tora is outside, and he's smoking, so he's stressed, he sighs, and we have a beautiful view, the stars and the compound. And he says it's lonely at the top of the pecking order. When he laughs, and he's like, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 over because he's like making fun of everyone?
I think so.
Yeah. And he's the only one like not getting flustered by all of the sexy talk.
Yeah, interesting. Angela Elizabeth Gastaldo pointed out how she kind of compared Tora to a mother hen, because there's this time when there's a couple times where like we see him in that hen outfit and like he takes care of the puglets. It's kind of like a mother hen. So she pointed out that him pulling himself top of the pecking order was tied into that.
You know, the whole thing about the puglets, it's throwing me off, or like, it's not throwing me off, but when I noticed reading this one, where it is really like kind of confirmed that this dynamic between Tora and the thuglets that we've all headcanoned is like quite canon, you know, it's accurate. When they were at the party, like last week or whenever it was, Damien had to tell Tora his name. And Tora was like, oh, like, did it hurt your feelings? It felt very like he didn't know him, right? And then when they were in Moonbright, it was like lifelong buddies, they have a fan club. And I just remembered that this time because in Moonbright I was like, hey, and I was like, wait a second, he was so rude to Damien though, like he didn't even know him. And that was a good day for Tora, like he was excited to see Poppy. So it's a strange dynamic he's got going on with all of them.
Honestly, it could also be that because, you know, in the comic, like you said, it takes like a week or two in between these things, but because it's been like a year in between like that incident and this incident, maybe like honestly Lily just forgot, or like it's hard to keep the tone.
Yeah, for sure.
Or it could be that they're so comfortable with each other that like Tora's like, dude, I know who you are. Did I hurt your feelings?
Yeah.
Or yeah, it could just be like, what are you doing? Why are you explaining yourself to me?
Maybe he also gets more intense when it's a bit about a job, because he was asking people to like check out the club and he's like, okay, listen, we're not messing around now, like you do your thing. Could also be.
Yeah, and it's funny though, I want to go back and reread it. So now Poppy is sitting to herself, she's doing some stretches in her room, and she thinks it's one thing to be wary of the rich and famous like Vincent Balchuman, but if it's a regular everyday person on the streets like Gil, how could any of us have known? She's stretching. She's like, in hindsight, the three of us might have been safe because Tora and Quincy were always around. But what about, and now she pauses. She's like, what about, and then she calls Jacob.
Ring, ring, click. Hey, Potts, how's it going? You good over there? Oh, and guess who's here with me? And she asks the Q and crew. And Jacob responds, perfect. I see they've already told you. Saves me the explanation when I'm confused as heck myself. Hey, my phone! And then Q's on the phone. Yo, guess what, Miss Pop Pop? I'm on vacation today. Woo-woo! And in the background, that's Damien, right? In the background? No. No,
I thought that was Brian.
No, that's Brian. Yeah, that's Brian, because Damien is pink hair. So Brian in the background, hey, Jake, we need more beer over here, man. And then you, yo, we want to know how long your stockings are, Miss Poppy.
Okay.
What does that mean?
That's mean? I think it's like,
what does it mean how long your stockings are? Am I like,
I didn't understand that either. Like he was calling her like Pippi long stockings, but
yeah, I think so. Because her name is Poppy, so it was like Pippi Longstocking.
oh,
I don't think it's particularly funny, but he sounds drunk. Like,
he's very funny. He's very drunk, I meant to say, not very funny.
in his head he's very funny.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, I'm glad that we all didn't get it. So it's probably just because he's drunk and silly.
Yeah, that makes some sense. Like one of those, you know, like you're high and you like have all these spiritual epiphanies that make no sense at all to anyone else.
And then Jacob continues, my phone, I'm getting your big bro Tora to come right back to the city. And then we see Poppy thinking to herself, gosh, I guess this explains why Tora always looks like a worn out mother of 12. Poor man.
Yeah.
Trying hard not to laugh at someone else's misfortune. Holding back the laughter, she's sweating a little bit.
Yeah.
So funny. Okay, I'm back. Oh my gosh, those little punks.
Sounds exactly like how Tora calls them.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And Poppy says, "Wow, you make a pretty good nanny, Jacob. I'm safe, so don't worry about me. I actually called to ask about something else." So Jacob's like, "Oh crap, this reminds me. I have something to tell you too, but what did you want to ask?" Poppy says, "Okay, I'll go first." And then we see Tora as Poppy is walking out. Is she walking outside? Looks like she's walking outside to talk to Jacob. And then we see Tora in the next frame looking over some papers. He looks very, what's the word? Absorbed in whatever he's looking at. Then we see Tora. And as Tora's looking down, the background I think is interesting. Maybe just because it's like nighttime, it's dark outside, but like, I don't know. It seems kind of ominous, his background. So he's like really absorbed in whatever his mafia work is. And then Poppy comes in. And it's back to like the room behind him as the background. So he's pulled to the present moment, back to reality. "Sorry to interrupt." And he says, "Weren't you going to bed early?" And she says, "I was, and I'm sorry to bother you at this hour, but do you happen to have any information on Louise?" And she looks really worried.
Did you know immediately at this point who this was about?
No.
No, I thought it was like someone else that worked with them, or I don't know, a friend. Like, I actually thought it was might be Jacob's girlfriend before I remembered her name was like Meg.
Yeah, her name was like Megan or something. Yeah, I had a hunch. Then I was like, we don't know her name. Like, why would she say it? But I had like a bit of a hunch because it was just like, there's no one else that Jacob and she would know about, basically, that we would also know about, that wouldn't just come completely out of left field.
That's smart. Should connect the two. I did not make that connection.
I have my moments, and then I have moments like with the stockings. So
Tora looks a little like he's still processing what's happening. He just is staring at her. He's like, "What?" And there's a panel of his hand just holding the papers, whatever, but we don't see any writing on the papers. It's just blank. So I don't know what the of that is.
I'm kind of assuming that the papers are actually like, we're supposed to infer that they have writing on them, but Lily's just not showing us because any paper that he's been perusing has been blank. So I think that, she's not bothering you to put something in. I think he's avoiding, talking. Like, he's just pausing and like looking at the papers because he doesn't want to really answer.
Yeah, because he lets her go on for a long time after this. Like, she's like, "Hey, do you have any information on Louise?" And he'd be like, "Yeah, she's dead." But no, this goes on for a long time, this conversation, before he says anything about that.
I think that's part of his mafia training. Like, what do you know?
Yeah.
What are you actually asking me? Because he doesn't want to just give away information.
Smart, yeah.
He doesn't want to put Poppy in danger, and he doesn't want to tell her too much to freak her out. And he might not know what exactly she's talking about either. So he's just waiting for her to Yeah. So Poppy says, "Louise is Gil's wife," and Tora says, "I know who she is." Poppy says, "Great, I figured you would. I mean, I kind of figured since you've been doing research work on Gil. I mean, I'm not accusing you of anything, by the way, and this isn't a test to see how truthful you'll be either. I totally get there's a line you need to draw for work and information that you need to withhold, and I'm making this more awkward than it should be, aren't I?" And he's like, "Yeah." Sorry.
It seems like she's still awkward because she's still not talking to him, quote, quote. And the last time they had this whole discussion, like, she knows that he gets very stressed out with work things, and that he wasn't telling, right? She's angry at him because he withheld information from her that was related to his work. So I think that's why she's so sensitive about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. But again, he's just letting her kind of like rattle on and just taking it all in and taking a moment to just think and have his thoughts.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, what?
No, I just agree with you.
Oh. And then finally he asks, what's going on with Gil's wife?
Wait, I do want to point out the panel just before that where he looks so guilty as he looks sideways, and I didn't catch this properly when I was first reading it because I didn't know what he was probably thinking about. But it's definitely like you can tell he's holding out on her here. He's kind of like, yeah, he's kind of just like maybe like you said, just waiting to see what she says, but he knows he could be saying something and he's not.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I concur.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, the background is dark. Yeah. So we see the binder full of paper and stuff that he was looking through. I wonder if this is like all related to Gil. I wonder if that's why we keep looking at first. Well, yeah.
Yeah. It's also interesting though that there is so much of a focus on the papers. You know, like even though they're blank, we've been shown them many times. So it did I don't know, I did wonder.
I wonder also if it could just be like they're not making eye contact with each other right now, so they keep looking to like maybe they're both looking at the papers just as a way to like, I don't know, keep the conversation going but not have to confront each other like full face.
Yeah, so it's like their point of view basically.
Yep. Because then Poppy comes out and says it. Well, she's missing. Tora looks very contemplative. Yeah, I don't remember where we're switching, but
by the flashback.
Okay.
Yeah, so you got a few more.
Okay. But he's like, missing? And he's surprised. He seems like he's kind of surprised by this.
Yeah, I wonder why he's surprised. Like he should know. So I think maybe he's surprised that people haven't realized she's dead yet.
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't there when she was dead, right? Tora overheard her talking to her unborn child and then left. So he wasn't there when Gil killed her.
Not that we have seen at least.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, yeah. So until we get to the last line, I guess when we get to the last line, we could see what we think about that. Then
yeah.
Maybe he was expecting her to say
that
she might be dead, and so he's like, wait, I thought like maybe he was waiting for her to say it instead of him having to say it. So when she says missing, he's like, oh, we're not on the same page.
Oh, could be. Yeah. Could be. So Poppy nods and says, I know this has nothing to do with you, but if you do have information on her, then maybe we could do an anonymous tip-off or something. Or maybe and then Tora said, you found out from the cops? No, not from the cops. I wonder, why do you think he asks where she got the information?
Maybe he's like felt like maybe she was talking to them behind his back.
Oh,
right, because that's the first thing. Remember, way back, he was so offended that she called the cops on him, and that was a major break in their trust. And so that's kind of like a repeat of that.
Yeah, and I can imagine like, so from what he says in the end, we know that he either has or at least thinks he killed her / is responsible for her death. We'll discuss this, I'm sure. Maybe, so she's coming in here, she's really concerned, she's like blabbering off at him. Meanwhile, in the back of his head, he's like, the wife is dead. Poppy's really concerned about this. She thinks she's missing. Maybe he is like feeling defensive, you know, because as the conversation goes on, maybe he's like, okay, I'm gonna have to tell her. So maybe he's on the defense and he's feeling like, I don't know, like you can reach as far as you want. It could even be that he's like trying to pick a fight, you know, because he's like getting antsy about it or whatever. But I also think it could be like a mafia thing. He just wants to make sure, who is she talking to? Where is this information coming from? maybe he wanted to get the picture right in his head first before going out and saying something. I mean, the thing is too, if Poppy would like, going into crazy theory here, if Poppy would be like wearing a wire because she's been talking to the cops, and he would say, yeah, I killed her, that would be a big problem. So maybe he's just trying to like stump her and be like, you know, I don't think that he mistrusts her to that level, but maybe if we're going with the thing of him being like on his mafia thing, it could all be things that he just has to make sure of. I'm just throwing theories out here, you know.
Yeah, I thought it might be along the lines of what you were saying, is that he wants to know if the cops know, then he has to worry about their involvement. Because right now, like, okay, so the cops know that Gil bounced town and that he owes people a lot of money, but he wants to know, like, okay, do they know this also? Because he's been trying to investigate himself. He wants to see what they know. So just reconnaissance.
Yeah. So Poppy says, no, not from the cops. I had a bad feeling about this moments ago when I was in my room, so I called Jacob and asked about the cops who came by on Monday, the ones I texted you about on our way here. Remember?
Okay, so we're in the flashback in the van as they're driving to the new safe house, and Poppy's technically not talking to Tora because she's in the back with her headphones on.
I forgot that detail. That's why she was texting him, not talking to him.
Yeah.
It's very literal, Poppy.
Yeah, she's funny. So we see her text. It says, cops came to the office earlier today. They told Jacob and Erdine that Gil's missing, in case that's of any significance to you, ... And then we see Tora as he's driving, bad manners, sir. He looks at the phone and he peeps like towards the back of the van where she's sitting, and she's like feeling caught, you know, she gasps because she's not talking to him. So she quickly like looks back and like starts shuffling in her bag, and she's blushing furiously with her headphones in. And that's already the end of the flashback.
Yeah, it turns out it's really hard not to talk to someone.
Yeah, especially, I mean, this is really vital information that they kind of have to share about. So yeah, it makes sense, you know. So Poppy says, so Jacob said that he didn't hear anything about Louise from the cops, which is bolded again, but he did hear from her niece. And Tora's still like sitting with his arms folded up and like a little bit turned away from her. And she says, she found his contact info and sent him a DM today asking about Louise. And he sent me a screenshot of the DM. Here, you can have a look. Beautiful close-up of Tora's face, looking some kind of intense way. She says he was going to tell us about it, but got distracted when you and the crew arrived. But I told him to let us know immediately if it concerns Gil, and he made a promise to do so next time. And here it says specifically that she's nervous. I think maybe she's worried that Tora is going to be upset that the information is coming so late when it's maybe been there for like a weekend or something. So Tora is scrolling through the message, and it says, "Hi Jacob, this is Lara. I'm the niece of Louise Hubertson, who is Gil Hubertson's wife. Gil is also the CEO of Giant Goldfish Publishing, where I believe you're currently employed at, as listed on the company's LinkedIn page. I apologize for the abrupt DM, but this is somewhat urgent as it concerns the possible disappearance of my aunt Louise." And then we're like really scrolled in. Has been trying to contact her. I guess my dad, Aunt Louise's older brother, has been trying to contact her since last week, but her line has been engaged all throughout. We're starting to get worried because Aunt Louise has never, wait, what? Because Louise has never to change numbers without informing us. But we live too far away to be sure that this is a missing person situation, so we're hoping to see, and then we don't see anything anymore.
Oh no.
And he pauses at this point because he apparently has made up his mind.
Oh, sorry. I'm just noticing I didn't really pay attention to the like kind of blurred out text before, but at the very, very top line it says my grandmother's birthday is coming up. Oh no.
Oh,
I'm so sad.
yeah.
No.
But I wonder how much longer they would have not contacted Louise. Like how much longer it would have gone on if something like that hadn't come up and her brother or Louise's brother wasn't trying to contact her.
Yeah. Also, I have to say the name kind of stood out to me, like Hubertson. It's a very Scandinavian
Oh yeah.
last name. Yeah, I don't know.
Mm.
Maybe we should look up if shark is also a Scandinavian name to see if they're related.
Shark last name. Origin.
Do we know his first name actually?
Shark? Yeah, that's a question. I don't know. Shark. Nothing really for sure.
Sorry?
I don't remember if we know his first name.
Yeah.
Because I know we know Claude Lang, like we know his full name.
In America, there were only 12 shark people in Iowa.
Maybe his name is Shark Hubertson, which is an awful name.
Yes. Right. I barely see it. I don't really see any results for shark.
Okay, maybe it's just a made up name, or it could be
Sounds
like
German, but,
it could
you
be
know.
a mafia name as well.
Yeah.
But-
Shark, tiger, jellyfish.
Yeah.
No.
But basically, Tora pauses after reading this. And Poppy says the situation is probably as foreign to him as it is for me. So Tora interrupts her and says, she's not missing Poppyland. She's dead. Why do you think now he's telling her?
I think emotionally, like the guilt is just weighing down on him, and now he feels like it. Now she's prattling on. Yeah, like he did wait a while. I think just to, maybe to feel like to know that he couldn't get himself out of it, like he had to give an answer. And now that he knows, like, okay, it's final. And also, I guess that he sees like verification, because I think that he wasn't sure what happened to her. But now that he sees this text, he's like, okay, this is Gil killed her. And now he feels the guilt weighing coming out.
But he doesn't say that Gil killed her, though.
He doesn't, which is very bad communication on his part.
Right? So Poppy stares at him. We see just the panel. His eyes are dark. He's still looking at the phone. They're completely blacked out, actually, his eyes. And then, wait. My fiance is just cutting out, which might like annoy the audio on this very high tension moment. Poppy says she's what? And then he says she's dead, Pops, which again, he's calling her Pops. It's been like a thing recently. He looks really sad now. And then he bows down over the table in defeat or something. And he says, she's dead and I killed her.
Okay, raise your hand if you think he actually killed her. This is my hand going down.
So I don't think so, but I'm open to the possibility.
Okay.
I'm keeping my heart open to the darkness.
So I think, oh, hello, fiance, who just said, I think that based on the episodes like what 82 and something else, I forgot what else. Remember when, she's talking to her baby in 82, and then she's like, oh, Gil, please be okay. And then Gil later on, when he's like, oh, the body's really starting to stink, and then he steps on the dinosaur and he's like, oh, this must have gotten, fallen down in a scuffle. So I think the scuffle is him like strangling his wife probably. And yeah, so it's implied, but yes, we don't know for sure what happened.
I forgot that he said the thing about the scuffle. I forgot that because that makes him like that. Yeah, that reconfirms the Gil thing.
Theoretically, yeah, he could have paid Tora or paid anybody to come kill his wife, and that's the scuffle. But it sounds like I don't know. It just sounds like it was him who did it.
Do you think there was a scuffle between like the three of them?
I think it was just him murdering his own wife. So, and we do know that, Tora, after he heard Louise talking to her baby, he jumped out the window. So,
which doesn't mean he couldn't have come back at some point.
Right, exactly. He could have come back. He could have been witness to Gil killing her and not stopping him. But I feel like if Gil was there, if Tora was there, he would have stopped her. He would have stopped him from killing his wife. I think he's just feeling that guilt because he left, and when she knew, she was like worried about Gil, like you heard her being worried, and he didn't do anything. So I feel like he's literally just because of that.
Even though he had like a hunch of what he's capable of, and he just like left. I mean, most likely this is just for dramatics. But I'm like, Tora, my boy, say she's dead and it's my fault. Don't say she's dead and I killed her, because that implies agency.
I know, it's like, it's terrible. It's very traumatic for Tora. Like, Tora is not this kind of guy who, like, I'll tell you what, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me a little bit of Kieran in 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏, because he's like so over dramatic and he's so like histrionic. So that's what it reminds me of. And he's getting emotional. Like, I think I pointed this out. Someone on Patreon, I forgot who, pointed out that he's being vulnerable. Like, he's showing his feelings to Poppy. Like, he's bending over and he's admitting defeat. And he's probably going to talk now about his feelings of guilt, because we presume, feelings of unplaced guilt. But this is him like really opening up and showing his weaknesses.
Yeah. But why the guilt specifically for this? Like, just because he has killed a lot of people.
I think it's, selective guilt, which is like, okay, compartmentalize. This is, what I have to do, kill these people, and I'm not going to think about it because it's too painful. And this one, oh, she's a person, and I got to hear her, especially also because he doesn't have a mother, and he got to hear her like talking to her baby, and she made a dinosaur for him, which he then had a memory of him, playing with dinosaurs as a kid. So I think that, it tugged on his emotions.
Laura, what are your thoughts?
You're basically saying everything that I was thinking. Yeah. I don't know that he knew that she was dead until Poppy told him that Louise was missing. And I think from there he connected the dots that she's actually dead. Gil actually killed her. And then from there he jumped to the fact that he could have done something to prevent that, and feels really guilty that he didn't. Yeah, same as you, Mindy. I don't think that Tora would have been around Gil and his wife having a fight, having a scuffle, and not stepped in, because he was like pursuing Gil and trying to like nab him, trying to get after him. So if Tora was like anywhere near Gil, I feel like he would have gone after him physically.
Kill him, right? Remember, he was trying to sniper him. So yeah, you just wanted to be dead.
Tora was trying to sniper Gil?
Yeah, remember that day when he left her from the coffee shop? He left Poppy at the coffee shop, and so he was trying to sniper her. In those episodes, we see him trying to shoot, and then he's like, oh, there's too many people, I can't get him.
Wait a second. What if he thinks he accidentally shot her or something? Could that be? Because he was basically blacked out. Like, he was not.
Yeah, but he never ever got a shot at Gil. Like, he was following him around, but he never actually shot because there were too many people. But I mean, maybe there's something we didn't see in the comic yet.
Yeah.
Oh God, that would be no, that doesn't make any sense, because from the way Gil talks to his wife, it's not like he's surprised that she's sitting there dead in this apartment.
Yeah. I mean, I just hope that this is only a cliff for us, like, I hope Lily's just doing this to us, be like, got you, and that Poppy and Tora are going to talk about it, and he's going to explain what he means. Because, I mean, up to this point, does Poppy know that he kills people?
I think she infers it, like us.
Sure.
It's even a debate within the fandom. I saw, like, on Facebook, people were saying like, oh, y'all are like, oh, don't worry, you didn't kill her, but like, don't worry, he obviously is a killer because he's in the mafia. And some people were like, no, we never saw him kill anyone, so we don't know for sure he kills people. And I'm like, I think it's pretty obvious he did kill people, but you're right, we never saw him kill anyone in the mafia. I think it's just heavily implied that as a mafia person, that's part of his job.
Especially when, he's the enforcer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, we saw Vincent slice someone's neck like it's nothing. I don't think he, I don't think he would do all of this like training of Tora and like breaking him to make him shoot people in the leg, especially because when Tora was on that mission, before they went to Regina's Peak, Vincent was so mad that he didn't kill them and he only like maimed them. So to me, that heavily implies that the kind of orders Tora gets are, I mean, murders.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But we don't know if Poppy knows, or if Poppy's in denial about it, or yeah, we don't know. So I think, yeah, kind of going off of what you were saying earlier, Mindy, this is a really vulnerable point for Tora, and this hopefully will lead to a much more in-depth conversation about his life and what he means, and Poppy will understand where he's coming from and like what his life is actually like in the Baltimore Mafia.
Yeah. This is the point where I hear my husband like in my head, because every time I talk about like Tora and Kieran, he's like, why are they with them? They're murderers. He's like, I would not touch them with like a 1,000,000-foot pole. But yeah, I mean, this is the point.
Nice to dream.
What?
It's nice to dream. Like you can pretend like in reality you wouldn't, you know. So that's why we do this in our stories. Like we think about them in our stories, you know, like.
Yeah, you know, I mean, the thing I like about it is that it shows that for some people, this is the reality, you know? Some people are not born into privileged lives and they have to live lives where they're violent. So, you know, we might be lucky that we aren't in that kind of world, but many people are born like that, into that world.
Yeah. Yeah, but my fiance is the same. He's like, he's a killer. How can you like make this romantic? But then I'm like, you know, he watches action movies where the guys are just like killing people as well, and then they get with the hot girls. So I don't think that's any different.
There you go.
Yeah, and I mean, there are real life people, women who will write to prison inmates that have done horrific things and have like romantic relationships with them, even though they've done horrific things. Yeah.
But like they weren't in a relationship before, or yes?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I remember, I don't know if it came to you in Holland, but there was this mugshot of this like really, really beautiful prisoner, and I don't know what he did. I think it was something violent. I don't remember exactly what it was, and like his picture, his mugshot went viral because he was gorgeous, and he got modeling contracts afterwards.
Oh yeah, I think I remember.
And I was like, okay, I was like, yes, he's very pretty, but no, I have no interest in any personal relationship with this guy. Forget the married part, but you know, like no.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of like in certain industries, there's a lot of blind eyes turned. And I think that's changing and it's good. I mean, honestly, this crazy Johnny Depp trial is very indicative of that. And to be honest, I think they're both terribly toxic, even though, you know, I think Amber and her lawyer's performance is god awful. And, you know, still some of the texts and evidences we've seen of Johnny Depp was not favorable as well, right? So for me, it's not like a black and white thing. I definitely don't think she's the victim. I also don't think that he is an unproblematic person. But because he's the more accomplished actor, I think a lot of people would give him a pass, even if he was the perpetrator, because I remember when this first came out and she was first accusing him, a lot of people were like, yeah, but he's such a good actor, you know? And I was like, okay, but he's like apparently a sexual assaulter. And okay, it was, you know, most likely a false claim, but at the same time, we should take it seriously and we shouldn't just turn a blind eye to the things people are doing just because they're talented or beautiful or rich or whatever, right? It's important and you should always first believe the victim. And obviously, I don't think we would be as into the story if Tora wasn't drop dead gorgeous, 6'3", like beauty. So yeah, you gotta take it with a grain of salt, but at the same time, like, this is a story, you know, and we do dissect it critically.
Yeah, no, we've talked a lot about the role of beauty, because beauty makes people, I mean, it turns off a critical factor in their brain, you know, it's just, you're inclined to love that person because when they're beautiful. And yeah, and I completely agree with what you said, Sharon, about like Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. I have not been following it too closely. I've just been, you know, hearing because it's based around. But like I said to my husband, I'm like, if I was a director, I would be like, I don't care if it's, you know, yeah, if you're an amazing actor, but like, I don't want people like you on my set, neither of them. I'm like, no, you're nasty people. And I don't want, like, this is not the kind of person I want to work with.
Yeah.
Find another job, sorry.
Yeah. It would be nice if more people had similar integrity. But I think we're slowly moving in that direction.
Hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, the fact we're having this conversation at all, I don't think in 2005 we would have been. We would have probably taken like a skinny actress and talked about how fat she is, because that was the trend back then. So I appreciate where things have turned. And I wish I hadn't been a teenager when times were a lot worse.
Oh. Yeah, well, you seem to have a mature understanding now, so.
Yeah. Still affects me like as an adult, but like in my own perception, you know, very good at uplifting others by now, but it's hard when you've internalized like trash talking yourself and stuff. But anyway, this is a whole tangent, which doesn't have much to do. Actually, it does have something to do with the comic though, because Poppy, I love her, and it's one of the first times that I've absolutely loved a protagonist that looks very similar to me in terms of like body type. And I love Lily for that. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely helped me. I know, I think I've talked about this also, because I remember growing up, I used to look at myself in the mirror. I remember being in high school, I was like 14, and I saw myself as being like fat. And I looked back at my pictures and I was like, so skinny. I was like, what was wrong with me? I saw my best friend, me and my best friend, and I was like, my friend 𝗙𝒃, she's super skinny and I'm very fat. And now I look at the pictures, we're literally the exact same size, but like we're super skinny, like young teenagers. And now I filled out, and like, I think I'm kind of curvy. And I always thought that was a negative thing. And then when I got married, my husband was like, he loved my curves. He's like, I love it. It's great. It's like, I mean, he very physically showed me. And I was like, it totally rewired how I thought of myself. And now I think of myself, I'm like, oh, I'm so curvy. It's great. Before I was always embarrassed and I was like, trying to hide myself.
Yeah.
So.
It was the same for me, because I've always been bigger chested. And you always feel like you have to cover yourself up, right? Because if I wear the same like deep cut shirt that someone wears who has a much smaller chest, it's indecent on me, you know, because you can see cleavage. But yeah, I feel like we grew up in a similar environment when we were younger, and there was a lot of like fat shaming at the time. I also used to be like 115 pounds and have like a little belly pouch, and I was like, oh my God, this is the end of the world, and I'm the ugliest person I've ever seen. And now I weigh so much more, and I am much better at loving myself, which is good. And like comics like this really help. It's the representation. It's the fact that we are seeing more media that embraces this instead of tries to show us that, yeah, we should be tiny.
And
sorry, Laura, this is like a huge tangent.
Celebrated. No, I think it's all related, and just kind of piggybacking off of that, like Poppy's curves are celebrated in the comic.
Yeah.
Tora and Quincy are both attracted to her big butt, you know?
Yeah. And to me, the thing that stood out the most was when they were at Alice's, and Tora's like, there's nothing wrong with your body. She's like, yeah, I actually think so as well.
That's true. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was one of the early sweet moments.
There are a lot of those in that comic.
Yeah. And hopefully this last scene will lead to more sweet moments, like, you know, bittersweet maybe, because it's a really heavy conversation, but hopefully it'll bring them closer.
It looks like we might be in for a rough few chapters.
I wonder how Poppy will react, right? I mean, will she freak out, or will she be even like stick around long enough to hear him hopefully explain himself? And maybe comfort him.
I mean, where would she run to?
The ghost, right? It's just worse outside. Quincy.
You know.
Oh, that would be bad. She runs to Quincy. I hope not. I hope it's not going to go to that side of the drama.
I mean, if she would run out, like off the compound, she could run into Inspector Lane because apparently Lane's on holiday or something there.
Oh, that would be so bad because then Tora would feel so betrayed. What if she runs to Lane? She's like, oh my God, Tora killed whatever, Louise. That would be terrible.
It definitely does sound like not this comic. I don't know. I hope they'll talk, but they are in like a fragile place right now. Like she just decided to talk to him again. Like, Tora, choose your words better, man, unless you actually did kill her. But if you didn't, just don't be so dramatic. He reads plenty of Quincy's books, I'm sure. I'm sure they're filled with those like soap opera moments, you know, it's like, no, Francesca, I don't like you. And then the next episode, it's like,
I love
no, Francesca, I don't like you. I love you. You know? But for a whole week, people were like, he doesn't like her.
Yeah, it's a typical webtoon cliffhanger where like the audience knows, but like they're just in case cliffhanging, you know?
The problem is though, like, see, I'm always like, yeah, we know it's nothing serious. But then I'm like, it is Lily. And I would trust her. And, you know, also celebrate her a little bit for really gut punching us, to be honest. Like, maybe he didn't outright kill her, but he could have been involved somehow. I'm still holding on to that. It's not that that's what I want to have happened, but it would be the unexpected choice.
Yeah.
I'm excited to find out.
Any other thoughts on the episode? I'd like to do a bonus question afterwards, if you don't mind, but anything else on the episode before we finish up?
Yeah, just real quick. So they were talking about Louise at the end and how she's dead. And maybe when I was talking earlier about the ghost, maybe it's Louise coming after them. I don't know. Maybe her little spirit is following them to the house and telling them to leave.
Now I feel creeped out though.
But why would you tell them to go? Was it?
I don't know. Go after Gil? Get away from this case? I don't know.
Or Gil's onto them.
Oh.
Ooh, 1 second. If it was Gil though, Gil would just try to kill them like outright. I don't think he would just like go. No,
I meant like maybe Louise is saying go because Gil's onto them.
Oh, I see. Like warning them. Well, I feel like she should be more specific.
I really hope it's not Louise because that's giving me like actual chills, and I'm like, I have the urge now to look over my shoulder. I hate this. I don't watch horror or anything or thriller. I cannot. So the theory I read about the ghost, and I mean, I haven't listened to the last couple of podcast episodes, so maybe this has been discussed, but that it could be like related to those spirits that like Ulan could commune with.
The Okuri something
on
Rionri?
Yeah. I'm so sorry. I feel like it's on the tip of my tongue and I don't remember the order of the syllables. But yeah, apparently people were wondering if that's like related to it. Or even if it, I think somebody was even like, oh, this could be Ulan trying to talk to Tora. But the question is still why it says go.
Yeah, I thought it was Tora pulling a practical joke, but this chapter confirmed that it wasn't.
I guess we'll find out more.
I hope so.
All right, ready to do the bonus question?
Thank you to my current patrons: Susie, Lady Libris, Lily, Jenny, Molly, Veronica, Emily, Joe Rochelle, Saucy Tuggles, Ian Rose, Priya, Alexa, Misty, Joanne, Patty, Imelda, Esther, and Watching People, 𝗪𝗓 Marie, Emily, Jean, Jen, Erin, Kate, Lily, Beckett, Soraya, Christine, Sadie, Kelly, Daniel, Teresa, Mrs. Castaldo, Jen, Tatiana, and Louisa. Your support is truly appreciated.